Today's notes are on the quadratic formula and finding the discriminant. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Some reminders when using the quadratic formula is first you must have one side equal to 0 and b squared will always be positive, so make sure you use parentheses when you plug it in your calculator. Next, make sure you simplify carefully. It is okay to simplify in multiple steps instead of trying to simplify the whole thing at once. Let's look at some examples. The first thing we're checking is that one side is equal to 0, so I'm able to start. I'm going to identify my a value is 2, my b value is 1, and my c value is negative 10. And I'm going to go through and plug it into the formula. So I have negative 1 for my negative times my b value plus or minus b squared minus 4 times my a value times my c value all over 2 times a. Alright, so to start I'm going to simplify underneath the square roots. So I'm going to keep the negative 1 out front. 1 squared is 1. The negative 4 times 2 times negative 10 gives me a positive 80, so 1 plus 80 gives me the square root of 81. And this is over 4. And since 81 is a perfect square, I can simplify this to negative 1 plus or minus 9 over 4. And since there's no radical, I can now break this up into two equations. X equals negative 1 plus 9 over 4, and x equals negative 1 minus 9 over 4. So the first one's going to simplify to 2. The second one's going to simplify to negative 10 over 4, which simplifies to negative 5 over 2. Okay, let's look at doing another example together with example 2. The first step is to set one side equal to 0, so I'm going to move everything to the left side of the equation by adding 9p and adding 9 to both sides. Then I can identify my a, b, and c value is 5, 9, and 9 before going back and plugging it in to the quadratic formula. So underneath the square root I have b squared minus 4 times the a value times the c value, everything over 2 times a. So if I go the same process and just simplify underneath the square root, 9 squared minus 4 times 5 times 9 gives me negative 99. And this is over 10. And then need to try and simplify the radical square root 99. So I'm going to come over here to the side. I can break 99 up to be 9 times 11, and 9 is a perfect square. It breaks down to 3 times 3. So I can say that this is 3i root 11, remembering that the I comes out when I have a negative underneath the radical. So if I go back over here, I get x is equal to negative 9 plus or minus 3i square root 11 over 10. Because of the radicals, I can't simplify this any further, so I can leave my answer like this with the plus or minus. Please try example number 3 on your own and then look at the next page. The back page talks about the discriminant. The discriminant of a quadratic equation is b squared minus 4ac. So it is the part underneath the square root. It does not include the square root. So we're just looking at b squared minus 4ac. Alright, the discriminant is going to be used to tell us the number and types of solution to a quadratic equation. If the discriminant is a number greater than 0, that means that you are going to have 2 real solutions. If you calculate the discriminant and it equals 0, then you will have 1 real solution. And if you calculate the discriminant and it's something less than 0, we have 2 imaginary solutions. Let's go down and look at an example. So for example 4, I want to first again check and make sure one side is equal to 0. After I do that, I can identify my A, my B, and my C values. And we want to remember that we're just looking at b squared minus 4ac. So I'm going to plug -8 in for B, 1 in for A, and 16 in for C. This simplifies to 64 minus 64, which simplifies to 0. So it asks me to find the discriminant, so I can say that my discriminant is equal to 0, and because it's equal to 0, I'm looking at the second bullet point where it asks for the number and type of solution, so there is 1 real solution. Please try and do example 4b and 4c on your own. Remember that before you calculate the discriminant, one side of the equation has to be equal to 0. So you want to make sure when you tell me your answer that you state the number and the type of solution as well as actually finding the discriminant of the quadratic.